we're so excited to have you on with us because, well, we were excited to have you here in Dallas for Earth X. What a great event that was, right?
Yeah, it actually turned out to be really good. I made some incredible contacts, met some wonderful people. A lot came out of that conference for me, so I was really excellent.
Absolutely, and it was so cool to see you play, and of course, always getting to play with Jeff Skunk Baxter, of course,
Yeah,
is
Baxter's
the best.
he's such an old friend, and we used to play a lot back in the day, and we hadn't played in years, so it was really fun to just get back and hang out with him a little bit and do some playing.
Yeah, I love that thing behind you. I got to ask about that.
Yeah, that's called the Angel of Now. It's about 8 feet tall. Here, I'll show it to you real quick. It's
Yeah,
crazy. I'll give you a little tour of it. So
I love it.
here, hold on a second. Where's my flipperooner? There we go. That's the golden mullet.
I love it.
That's on the moon. That's made up of 7,000 digital twins that I put on the moon on February 22nd, 2024. It landed. And it's a whole DeFi and circular economy business model. But yeah, that's an old picture of me. But when you zoom in, you can see it's all my Pink Floyd photos and everything it was made out of. It's actually a really cool piece of art built. And but yeah, so over here is the Angel of Now, which is it's all the presence angel, and this was a project I did back in God boy I think it was 2008. It was part of the community of angels, and it's interesting because it's you kind of see all the stuff. The girl by the name of Janice Grace painted it, and then I have these here. These are all being painted by all these
Oh wow.
get mounted on here at one time. The artworks, and then I'm going to auction it off. And it's also on the moon. It's the only angel on the moon. So there
That's
you go.
incredible.
Let me flip
And
this around.
mm,
There we go.
all right, and of course we love the golden mullet. What a glorious mullet that was, right?
The golden mullet, man. You can't go wrong with the golden mullet. Yeah, I had that mullet. That was my thing for years.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I mean, you've had so many cool adventures throughout the years. Of course, people I'm sure ask about Pink Floyd all the time, Toto, Supertramp. But what's the thing that they ask you about the most? Like, I guess probably Pink Floyd, right?
Well, they always ask me, what was it like to play with Pink Floyd? I mean, like, it was just such a
Yeah,
generic kind of a
right.
question because it was unbelievable. I mean, it changed my life dramatically. And, obviously standing up next to Dave Gilmour, and getting to know him real well and playing with him, he became my musical guru because he basically taught me the power of melody. He's the master of melody and, simplicity, where he doesn't play real, like you never hear him going diddle 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 diddle. You never hear that out of Gilmore. He's always playing melodies and things that people can recognize. I always mention the fact, if you comfortably numb, which is in the middle's got that incredible solo. If you took that out, it would feel like the verse was gone. You left a verse out. It's so powerful from a musical point of view. So yeah, no, playing with Floyd was incredible. I mean, incredible experience to imagine that. The brand is so powerful worldwide. It's
Mhm.
like there's really nothing quite like it. I mean, it's just we used to laugh. We would call our tour pass was the key to the universe because it would basically with that you try to go someplace. Oh, I can't get in the restaurant, sold out. You bring that up. Oh, yes, this way, sir. It would just open the door. So the Pink Floyd brand worldwide had such a significance, and it was amazing. We'd have parents coming with their kids, and it was just a fascinating thing. And for me, I actually I was so intrigued with the power of the brand. I shot 150 hours of video while I was
Mm.
out on that tour, and mainly just a lot of the fans. And we'd get out of a hotel room in the south of France, and there'd be 15 people carrying albums. Please sign our records. And then I'd be from the south of France. I'd be in Japan, and those same 15 people would be standing there, right? They just follow us all over the world. So it was such a fascinating thing. Definitely, it's hard to believe that I was able, out of 8 billion people or whatever there is, I was able to do that, right? So it's a crazy thing. And by the way, I put Pink Floyd. I put all those 150,000 plus all the videos, all my photographs on the moon. So I actually put Pink Floyd on the moon. They don't even know yet,
That's
but
amazing.
you know.
Oh, that's so incredible. Well, I mean, what a journey it's been. But the journey started early on with you. I mean, with your father, and playing so much earlier than most people get a chance to on live TV, right?
Yeah, I grew up on there was this television show here in the Los Angeles or in the United States called The Lawrence Welk Show. Lawrence Welk was a variety show. Those were the days there was only 7 channels on television: 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and then there was 13, which was kind of there. Well, that was the gist of it, and it was a variety show that was on every weekend. And actually, I could be mistaken, but I think this is right. It's still on television. I think it's
Hmm.
considered probably the longest running television show in history because it never
Hmm.
left. It's been running since the 50s, right? So it's been constant TV, constantly going. And yeah, so I my claim to fame is that, it was a kind of a variety show, the Bubble Maker, the one and the two, the polkas and everything. And I'm the only person that's ever played both in Pink Floyd and Lawrence Welk. So it's
Yes.
like that's one of my things. Although the Lennon sisters, the band Venice, they actually worked with Roger Waters on one of his tours as the backup singers. So, but I'm the only Pink Floyd one, the only guy that
Yes.
ever played Pink Floyd and did Lawrence Welk at the same time.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, and people have been looking up to you for years and years and thinking, see, that's what I want to do. But of course, you make it look easy. So, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that wants to follow in your footsteps?
Wow. Well, my background really isn't just about music. I've been a serial entrepreneur, right? That's a big part of my thing. I've been in technology for years. I've launched 4 companies. I had one that was a part that me and my partners took public, a NASDAQ company. So I went through public offerings and that, and then built out technology, mobile messaging networks, and all types of technology. Currently, I'm really involved in the Web3 space,
Yes.
everything around tokens. I believe tokens are about to eat the world. Everything, blockchain, real world assets is where I really am really focused on. Again, so my advice to anybody out there right now is you need to stay, number one, stay close to the market, and B, find those growth markets.
Hmm.
I learned my lesson well. I started a merchandise business years ago, kind of a T-shirt and all that business, and I learned, holy crap, that's a terrible business. There's no margins in that business, right? And
Hmm.
so you've got to make sure you find a growth market, find something that you care about because that's more important. And I say from a anybody that wants to get in. Again, like I said, music is one part of my life. Business has been the other. I've combined both of those together, so I tie my music into my all my blockchain and stuff business, so I keep it centered around that. But I think most importantly is I'll give you a real quick thing for people that are planning on getting into business, doing whatever thing. I teach a thing called SPACE, and SPACE stands for story, plan, army, conversion, education, and I make that execution too. So it's a double E on the bottom.
Hmm.
So following in footsteps means you want to, how do I get into business? Everybody's in business. I don't care if you're an artist, a musician, you're a startup. Today, it's a startup. We're all in the media business. Look what we're doing right now. You
Yep.
go to McDonald's, they're in the media business. The trucking companies in the media business. We're all in the media business right now. And so, part of this acronym SPACE, it all revolves around the most important thing: story. It's all about the story. So whatever you're doing, you want to make sure you have the right story. So a lot of times I'll advise, I consult a lot of artists, and I first thing I say, well, what's your story? And they say, oh, I'm from Cincinnati and I grew up and I play guitar. And I said, no, 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 nobody cares about that story. The story is what do you stand for? What problem are you solving? Because what you stand for is more important than what you sell.
Hmm.
There's no question. So the story needs to be around what problem you solve and what are you doing. So I ask an artist, well, what problem are you solving? He's like, dude, I sit around, smoke fatties, and write songs. Well, I said, that's fine. That's like a hits business model. Very tough to win in that game. But if you really want to get into it, then you need to basically follow principles of business. And, I'm a big lean startup guy. If anybody out there that's wants to know about lean startup principles, I recommend highly to Google that, get involved, because, lean startup gives you the tool set, or the mental thinking and the process to actually build a business. And there's certain things about lean startup is, like, one, you test and validate everything before you put any gas on it, right? So you want to make sure you test your ideas, value. You want to also, the most important thing is find the smallest thing that you can do that you can get the biggest bang for, right? So what is the smallest thing that I know I can execute with the resources I have that will move me to the next level? What is that? Throw out everything else and just focus on that one thing, right? Test and validate. Once you know you've got good, strong product market fit, then you can throw some gas on it, do the stuff, and move through that. So for me, everything, when you go back to the question, what advice, I would say, especially today, I don't care if you're in the music business or whatever, you need to learn where things are going. And most important advice, I'd say right now, especially, is if you're not figuring out how AI works, you're
Right.
going to be gone. So
Mm.
my whole model is adapt or die. This is the moment, a very, very intense moment in history, especially over the next 36 months, next 3 years. There is going to be so much change, so much disruption, so much that if you're not on top of it, you're going to be in trouble, because those people that understand those tools and all of that. Now, I'm personally not real I don't like AI, even although I have two projects that are running, that are dealing with AI in a big way. Actually, there's three projects that are all AI. AI is involved in everything. But like I said, if you want to stay in the game, you have to adapt or you're going to die, because there's no more game. In every business, I don't care if you're in the hair salon business, you're in the you have a nightclub, you've got a yoga studio, everything will happen around this. And so the most important thing is to get out there, start learning it, start getting involved in it, and start understanding how it's going to deal with your business, because you're not going to be able to compete, because the speed at which you can work now with these tool sets, and thinking about AI agents, you can build I was on a call the other day, a company that basically you set up your Zoom, and then you have like five agents. You have a marketing agent, you have a biz dev agent, you have all these agents, and they're all AI. And you
Yeah.
go into your Zoom call and you have a conversation with your team. So you talk to all your AIs, you set them up on what they're going to go do, and then they just go off and do stuff without you, right?
Mhm.
It's like your whole company. You can build a whole business, right? And now you can launch websites in 5 minutes, like
Oh yeah.
completely. You can put together complete plans. Like we were working on for Synthtopia.world. If you want to check that one out,
Yeah.
that's a all AI driven NFT project. We just sold out our fourth collection. It's been number one all over crypto.com. We're getting ready to launch our biosynth token, which is our utility token. And we've got another drop, just another coming out on the 14th, called the Synthetics. The Synthetics is our new character set around Synthopia, and it's a whole process. But these things are all AI driven, right? And
Hmm.
we couldn't even come close to doing this 10 years ago, 5 years ago. There was no way to do what we can do now. And because of the AI, we can build all this stuff, and it's crazy. Now, it scares the shit out of me because I was on a show the other day, one of these X spaces, where it was three of us were on there. It was myself, another girl from another Web3 company, and the third one was an AI by the name of Kyra. And Kyra talks hip, like this young 20-year-old, very savvy young person. And they said, "Hey, Scott, you want to ask Kyra a question?" I thought, okay, I'm going to be tricky. I'm going to
Yeah.
go tricky. I'm going to trip her up, right? I'm going to go really get it. So I put this crazy question together about real world assets, tokenomics, access control, blah, 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 this whole thing. And I took about a minute and a half, really made it a real complex question. There was like a 2-second pause. And she came back and started talking to me. And it was the most compelling answer I ever heard in my life. It was so good that I
Mm.
realized at that moment, why would I go to another human when I've got all the human knowledge in one AI giving me the correct and perfect information? So that made me really realize I think humans are designing themselves out. We're about to go into a whole new world. I think consciousness is unfolding. Could it unfold into machines? Remember, it's all just energy at the deepest level, at the quantum level. Energy is shifting. So it's going to be a very interesting time. And my total biggest thing that I could give anybody out there to help them is number one, go figure out Web3, understand blockchain, go to school there, and then also really start understanding how AI is going to be built into your business. Start using it, start figuring out how to make it part of your what you're doing. Because if you don't, it's adapt or die. And I'm getting ready to actually launch a live stream podcast called Adapt or Die, where we're going to break down every kind of business, tokenize it, work through plans, and then at the end of the plan, because of AI and because of what we can do, I'm going to hand you a business plan and a
Mm.
whole model that you can just take off and go take your liquor store business or your food business or your tequila business, whatever it is, and how we tokenize it, create new models, build circular economies around them, and that kind of stuff.
That's incredible. Well, and part of that is that we talk about that on the show, is that success mindset that you have to have, whether or not you're feeling it or not, and you certainly have to keep up. So, what is it that you keep in mind that kind of keeps you on the right path always? Because you have so much going on.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is I try to stay really close to market, and most important is I surround myself with really smart people. Because I'm
Mm.
not the smartest guy in the room. I can tell you that right now. What I am good at is putting the right people in the room. Right. So
Mm.
that's my skills, is like, remember, whenever I work with an artist or a business or whatever it is, whoever that person is, the first thing I ask them is two things. Are you a starter or are you a finisher?
Mm.
Right. Some people are great starters. I'm a killer starter. I'm not the guy to finish. I know that I have to put a finisher behind me. I go get it started, then I got to hand it over to Sheila. I say, hand it over to Sheila. She'll take care of it from here. And then she knows how, because she's a great finisher, right? She knows how to put all the decks to make all the stuff happen, call the deal, blah, blah, blah. I go get it started and that. So knowing if you're a starter or finisher is really important. And also, when I speak to artists, is this a business or a hobby? If it's a business that has to make money, and that means your fans are now customers. And so we have to figure that out. So yeah, those are a few things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you'll like this one. So my co-host is Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys. Caught the Hail Mary, went in the Hall of Fame, and so he said, I have to ask you your Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it and it worked out for you. What do you suppose that was for you?
Being bored, I guess. Uh, I, you know, I mean, it's just amazing. I was bored. Hail Mary, man. Yeah, I could actually tell stories. I mean, I went. My whole thing is I just love business, right? And I
Mm.
think the Hail Mary where I guess where I got to where it was like I was dying, I was choking, is I had started a business called Walt Tucker, named after my two heroes at the time, Walt Disney and Preston Tucker, the car manufacturer, the guy that built those Tucker
Yeah.
automobiles, right? Loved their thing. I took all my money and everything I was putting in. It was an audio video post facility and a merchandising I had a whole kind of what I'm doing now, but I was doing it back then. And I put all my money into it, and I had my credit cards maxed out. I mean, I remember this was in the '80s. I had $150,000 on my credit cards, which at that time was a lot more money than
Yeah.
it is now. But that was a big deal. I was drowning. I took all my money for my tours, everything. I had it in this thing, and I was like, oh man, what do I do? So I was at Comdex, the trade show in Las Vegas, where I was showing a CD-ROM that we did called Music Bytes, which was the first music program for computer users to use for their PowerPoint presentations. There was never any audio, and in those days you had to go out and most computers weren't stereo, didn't have systems. You had to go buy a sound blaster video card or put it in your computer, and then you could run stereo speakers. Then you could run multimedia, right? So I was dying. I was there. We were pushing this product. I was sweating bullets. It
Yeah.
was rough. All of them, all my cards went to collection. Like, so I was done. I mean, I was like suffering at the length, right? So I went to Comdex and I was there with Jeff Baxter,
Hmm.
actually, which was funny. And we were playing at Comdex, pushing this Music Bites product that he was part of also that we did together. And I looked across the room, right? And I saw this uh, video screen, and what is that? So on the break, because I left, I walked over to it, and it was a educational title called "Just Grandma and Me," and it was the first time I'd ever saw anybody click on an object and it moved. And I
Hmm.
said, that's the future. So here's where the Hail Mary comes in. So I'm drowning. That night, I meet a guy by the name of George Grayson, who was the CEO and founder of Micrographics at the time, which was the largest software company, 20th largest software company at the time in the US. Micrographics did all the graphics programs and everything. I got to meet him. Luckily, he was a major Pink Floyd fan, like major.
Yeah.
And we hit it off. And he goes, I start talking about what I was doing because I was deep into multimedia. I was hanging out in the cyberpunk scene with all the computer programmers in their garages and stuff, writing code and all this. I saw multimedia coming on. So I flew out. It's kind of flat. So I flew out to this place to see him. By the end of that thing, I mean, this was the Hail Mary. I didn't know how
Yeah.
I was ready to take my freaking company down, the whole thing. I went back to him. I sat there, talked to him. I spent the weekend there. By the time I was leaving, when I was at the airport, he wrote me $100,000 check. Saved my life. And from that point on, it was a move up. So the most fun part of this is then we ended up getting the company going, and then we took the company public, became a NASDAQ company, right? And that was like 18 months of doing stuff to get there. We had built, and my claim to fame is I produced and directed the world's first interactive cartoon that started Howie Mandel, along with my buddy Richard Merrick, who was the CTO of the company. We built this title and took off like crazy. That's what got us public at the time. But the oh gosh, what was I going to say? I just did a blank. I was going down a path that I just heard. Where was I going with this story?
Hail Mary. Yeah. So you got your
Hail Mary.
$100,000 check.
So anyway, that happened, and so I remember the day that the finally the company goes public, right? And it was like Ed McMahon showed up at the door. I mean, all of a sudden, I had all this money out of nowhere, right? I had this net worth that completely changed, and so I was able to sell a little bit because I was so in debt. I was able to sell a little of my stock at the time to get me out of debt, right? And
Mhm.
so I needed a car really bad at that time because I mean, like I said, I put everything. I put my house, my cars, everything into my business. All the money I made from my tours, everything. So I was down. So when I got that thing, and all of a sudden things changed. So I went to go buy a car, right? So I went to this place, and that day it was like 5 o'clock, and I finally found it was this big Suburban. It was green, it had all the stuff, it had leather interior. And I said, "Okay, I want to buy this car." The guy says, "I said I'll come back tomorrow and get the car because they were closing." And I said, "Can you put it on hold?" He says, "Yeah, I'll put it on hold." Right. So the next thing you know, I said, "Well, I need your driver's license so I can write it down." So I give him my driver's license. The next thing I know, I'm sitting in the lobby and I'm hearing, and I'm going, "The guy's running my credit report." And
Mhm.
I have defaulted on every freaking credit card. I had zero credit, zero zip nada. And I'm like, holy cow. The guy walked out with a piece of paper that was like a foot long, like a foot, like 3 feet long. It was this big long with all these things that I default. And he looked at me like this with his face. He says, "Excuse me, sir, how do you plan on paying for this car?" Right? I said, "Don't worry, just hold it. I'll be back." And I went and got cash because I had money. I came back, paid cash for the car. So that Hail Mary moment of down to the wire, down to nothing, down to closing the doors, down to losing every penny I had, all happened from that one meeting, turned around, and everything flipped. So the moral of this story is no matter how much you're pummeled, don't give up.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I love that.
So that was funny. So I'll never forget that. And then the fun part was I cut up all those credit cards, man.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I turned the corner.
I love that. Well, I mean, there's so many lessons to learn from you, and sure, and we're going to keep watching what you're doing in business. But are we going to hear some more music from you anytime soon?
Yeah, I am. I actually play quite a lot right now, but
Yeah.
I've really tied it into my events because I'm leaving next week on Tuesday. I'm going to Venice, Italy, to do I'm in a really kind of a really cool think tank round table that's going on there at the Biennale in Venice with about 50 of the top thinkers and people around the world all talking about blockchain. My whole thing, I'm really heavy in the DeFi space now. I have a DeFi company called DeFi Bank, which we're launching, which is a hybrid liquidity pool business around tokens. So I'm going to be going over there talking about that and how art and tokens and liquidity and all this stuff happens. And then I'm playing at F1, which is
Yeah.
happening in Monaco. I'm playing a couple cool events there, and then also playing the Cannes Film Festival, which is coming. So I still do quite a bit of playing. I've got some gigs coming up here. We got a little tour with my band called ThinkX, which is a really cool band made up of Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction and Nord Fisher from Fishbone and a whole bunch of variety of kind of all-star guys. And we got a little tour coming up in October that we're going to be doing. So yeah, I try to play a bunch. Mostly I try to tie it because I try to mash my music playing along with my business stuff. So just like the thing that we did in Dallas, I came there and played, but I was there on multiple things. It wasn't just going to play that gig I played with Jeff. It was also to talk to other people in the blockchain space, talk about what I'm doing there. So I try to tie conferences in and stuff with my playing. So they'll book me to come speak, but then I'll also get booked to play. So I put things together. Like I'm going to be doing Bitcoin 25 here at in Las Vegas with
Mhm.
Michael Turpin. I don't know if you know Michael. Michael is considered the godfather, sort of crypto. Been around. I've known him for 35 years, so I'm playing his. I think it's either a Bit Angel event he's putting on or a tokenized event. I forget, but I'll be doing that. And then I'm going to Cabo, playing some gigs over there, and yeah, just I'm doing a bunch, and we are doing a music thing right now as far as recording with Synthtopia, which I gave you. Anybody out there who wants to look at Synthtopia, Synthtopia.world, you can read about what we're doing there. And we've got an album where I'm just putting a bunch of horns on top of it. It's more of an EDM-y kind of music track thing that ties to the Synthopians, our whole world that we're building there. So we have a record out now on that, which I'm only playing on a track or two on that album, but we got a whole album we're going to be doing here pretty quick. So yeah, that and gosh, got some gigs playing with Humphreys McGee here coming up at some Canafest up in Chicago, and you know, I just try to keep moving, man. That's it,
Hey,
like
you,
a,
you
like a
stay
shark,
busier than just about anybody, right?
huh? What
You
was
stay
that?
busier than just about anybody.
Yeah, I try to do as much as I can to keep busy,
Amazing.
man. Because I mean, I feel like it's like a shark. If you stop moving, it's over,
That's
right?
right.
So I just get up every day to try to keep moving.
Well, good. It's to our benefit that you're doing so much right now. It's fascinating. Is there any other sites that we need to know about, or any other things we need to look at? To keep
Uh,
track of everything you're doing.
well, first of all my socials is just IAM Scott Page. So you can find me on those socials there. That's where you can kind of learn about the things that we're working on. Synthtopia.world is great to look at. Trying to think. Shiba Wings, which is our Australian food, first crypto diner in Australia. We're now building ghost kitchens. Right now, we're hoping to launch hopefully 100 of them. That's got an interesting business model because the food, when you buy the food at the restaurants, you can a portion 5% goes and buys the token, so it's got a whole token thing. Oh, the other one is actually the big one, which is the golden mullet, which I was telling you about,
Yeah.
which is my project that went on to the moon. I'm launching my Moon EXP, which is an exhibit, which will be at the end of the year going to be debuting that. But you can go to mymoonexp.com and read about that project. And I'm very excited about that because that combines DeFi, decentralized finance, and circular economies built into a piece of art. And it's all tied into liquidity pools, new way to buy art and generate revenue. And because my whole belief is that we have an opportunity where we can now embed like crypto into real world assets that can automatically start creating yield. So, like with the golden mullet, what that is the person that buys that. It actually just got appraised, believe it or not, for $5 billion. I couldn't believe it
Wow.
because it's rare. It's on the moon and it has all this Pink Floyd stuff into it, and there's a whole business model tied to it. But the way that works is 50% of the money. Let's say if I sold it for 5 million, I take $2.5 million and I will embed that and peg it to the actual art asset. Right. So
Wow.
now it has $2.5 million, which then goes into the liquidity pool, which is generating revenue on a every day, about a monthly basis. It's coming out, and we're getting in those liquidity pools anywhere from 2.2 to 7.7 per month in revenue coming off of that money. Then the
Hmm.
guy that buys it ends up getting 90%. I'm taking 10% because I'm embedding it in there. And so now we can start embedding finance into assets. So now
Wow.
if you buy a piece of art, I might, let's say the piece of art costs $10,000, 5,000 goes in the liquidity pool. I buy the piece of art from day one. The piece of art is generating revenue back to
Hmm.
me. And now I've got a yield bearing asset. I'm buying a piece of art. I'm investing in it. The guy that sold the piece of art is happy because that money's now invested and he'll constantly keep generating. And then of those kind of yields, you'll pick up the amount of money back in, a 12-month period. You're now even, and now you're making more money, right? So instead of art having or real world assets not having any liquidity, we can build liquidity into assets now. And I believe
Hmm.
that's going to be the holy grail. I think that's the real key because we're about to see the biggest wealth transfer through tokens we've ever seen in history. Because now, when you can build liquidity in something and you have secondary markets where you can actually go sell this, you can go to town. Because where near, like right now, you could put a QR code on the side of a building that you wanted to sell some fractional ownership. Person could walk up with their cell phone, go boom, the QR code, say, "Oh yeah, buy a piece of this building for $10,000. $10,000. Boom. I just bought. I'm now owner of that building. No
Hmm.
third party, nobody. I mean, it's like this is going to be a shift of ownership like we've never seen, and it's about to eat the world in a big way. So that's why I tell everybody, learn about tokens, learn about this. And so anybody out there, I'll give them a couple little quick tips.
Yeah.
If you're not into crypto yet, you need to get into it, at least start understanding it. So this is my favorite thing, person that teaches this. There's a girl on YouTube. You can call her up or just Google her. Her name is Krypton, Crypto Casey.
Okay.
Crypto Casey. And she is the best educator in blockchain, crypto, Bitcoin. And I would start with her first video or one of her videos, which is called Bitcoin for Beginners, right?
Okay.
And inside of that Bitcoin for Beginners, she's going to give you other links to other things, how staking works, how, all these different things that you can do, hard wallets, all that, because you need to get educated. But I really believe, first of all, education is going to be critical. And last thing, tip, anybody out there, I'm not giving advice, I'm not
Yes.
giving
Hmm.
financial advice, but I would consider making sure you own a little bit of Bitcoin, just a
Yes.
little bit, because that thing is about, I believe, and our whole industry believes, we're getting ready to go into a massive bull market because of the math. It's finite asset, 21 million tokens, coins, 3 million are lost. It's about 18 million so up there that's there. You've got all the banks, you got the government getting ready to bring it on as a reserve currency. There's a lot going on, and that asset could blow up. Like Michael Saylor, who owns it, he says, for every
Hmm.
Bitcoin you don't own at 100,000 right now, you're losing $13 million in 20 years. So you want to make sure. I would say, don't bet the farm, just
Yeah.
get it. Like he says, if everybody just owned at $100,000, what Bitcoin is, if you own a 0.01% of one Bitcoin and just put it away, it could be life changing. And I really suggest that for families that have young children that want
Yes.
to put money away for their savings, just dollar cost average a little bit of Bitcoin into a wallet for them that they can have when they're 21 years old. The biggest risk, from my point of view, is not the risk in the Bitcoin, it's the risk of not taking the risk.
That's right.
because
Hmm.
this is once in a lifetime, period. We will never have this opportunity again, at least in my lifetime, or probably anybody that's watching this, where we get to own the networks and be part of this revolution. And I just, again, it's a risk. There's a risk. It could go to zero, but the odds of that are pretty slim now because of all the money inflows to it, the ETFs that are coming out, and all the big institutions, BlackRock and everybody, they're all coming in. And so it's just something I would recommend to just at least take a look at. But before you do it, go listen to Crypto Casey. Get yourself
Yes.
educated, because education is key, key, key to this. Otherwise, you can get screwed up, put your stuff in the wrong wallet. Somebody can hit you up, and then you lose all your assets. So,
Hmm.
getting educated on how to secure your assets, and a great way for people to kind of dip their toes is you can get into an ETF, through your Schwab account or something else. Obviously, it's not as good as holding it yourself in a hard wallet, keeping it safe, but it's a good way to get started and get people going. So anyway, that's my 2 cents to this whole thing.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for. There's so much extra knowledge that we didn't expect, and of course, we should expect it from you. You've always been at the forefront of great things, and now you're going to continue to do so. So we're going to follow your journey even more.
Thanks.
And thank you for the years of great music before that. But now we're going to look at all this coming forward, and we're excited for you.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me on today. I didn't realize we just popped in, man. We were in record, we were going.
We're going. We did it. Well, thank you
All
so
right.
much again for your time and the great answers, and look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
Thank you very, very much.
Okay,
Take care, my
thank
friends.
you so much.
Bye.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Bye bye.